Okay, hopefully you tried some of these equations on your own, on your notes, and you can check them as we go through them. Any ones that you were stuck on, we're gonna go through and make sure you're copying down, pausing the video as needed if I'm moving too quickly in order to write all the steps down. I am just gonna go through each one, the steps and the answer. If you have time, I would even go through and do a check for each one. Since I don't have a ton of room and I don't want to take up too much time, I'm just going to go through how to solve each one and what you should be doing. And you can kind of check yourself and fill in the ones that maybe you skipped over or were confused about. All right, first one. Remember, you get rid of your addition or subtraction first. So I'm going to subtract 9 on both sides. You can always draw a line where the equal sign is. Sometimes you'll see me do it. Sometimes I might not. It's all preference. So now, negative 16 and a negative 9 gives me a negative 25. I'm not done because C is still being multiplied by negative 5, so I'm going to divide by negative 5. So a negative 25 divided by a negative 5, C you should have equal positive 5. That's the answer to the first one. Pay attention to your signs, your rules. Remember, we always get rid of our addition or subtraction first. Now, I'm going to go off to the right. We'll move across the rows and then go down. So this one's a little tricky, and I'm putting a star because there's something we have to actually do first before we can get rid of that addition and subtraction or multiplication and division. I see parentheses. You always want to get rid of those first. So I'm going to do the distributive property to make this 3x minus 12. And then keep your equals 9. Now I have a two-step equation. Remember, distributive property, I multiply each term inside of my parentheses. So now I can solve this. Now I'm going to get rid of that subtracting 12 by adding 12 to both sides. 9 plus 12, that gives me 21. Bring down my equal sign. I still have a 3x, so I'm not done. I need to still divide by 3. 21 divided by 3 gives us 7. So you should have x equals 7. All right, keep moving along to the right here. We have some fractions. Don't get scared by fractions. We're still doing the same steps. Get rid of your addition or subtraction first. So I'm going to add 1/2 to both sides. Now notice these fractions, right? They're different signs, so I should subtract them. They already have a common denominator, so I don't need to do anything extra. So now I just subtract my numerators. 7 minus 1 would give me 6 over 2, keep your denominator, which I can then simplify to 3. And it's a negative and a positive. Take the sign of the larger, which would be 7 over 2, so this should be a negative 3. So remember to always simplify if you can. Now, x over 8, that's a fraction or it's multiplication. So to get rid of dividing by 8, I'm going to multiply each side by 8. So now negative 3 times a positive 8 gives me a negative 24. That should be your solution here. And the last one in this row, right? M right now is being divided by 6, but also added by 6. Get rid of that addition. So I'm going to subtract 6 on both sides here. I'm left with m over 6. And then subtract 6 from 10. That gives me 4. Right now, m is being divided by 6 still, so I need to multiply by 6 on both sides. So 4 times 6 gives me 24. So m should equal 24. Positive. All right, let's move down to our second row here. Notice in this one, you have this negative out front here. Previous chapters, or previous lessons, I should say, I told you that negative could really go anywhere, right? It could be out front, it could be in the top, it could be in the bottom. So what I would always want you to think of it as is being attached to that 3. So in the denominator. So z right now is being divided by a -3. So that's going to stay with that, so you can get rid of that sign when it's time. Now z right now, like I said, is being divided by -3, but it's also being added by 5. So the first thing we want to do is subtract 5. Remember, addition and subtraction first. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. A lot of people get confused in 2 steps, and we'll do it from wherever the variable is. Go on the other side. That's why I said if you draw a line where the equal sign is, it makes your life easier. So 9 minus 5 gives us 4, and then I still have z being divided by a -3. I'm going to move that into the denominator so I don't forget about that negative. So now I have to get rid of that dividing by -3. So to get rid of that, I'm going to multiply by -3. Remember, always doing opposite operations. So what is a +4 times a -3? Z should equal a -12. All right, to the right, I see, now make sure you're paying attention to where your variable is. A is being multiplied by 4, but also added by 2/5. That's a +2/5. So I want to get rid of this 2/5 first. So I'm going to subtract 2/5 on both sides. So sometimes your variable, this is like flipped from what we've been seeing, right? The order. That's okay. Just be careful that you're taking away that 2/5. So subtract 2/5. On the right, we want to go all the way to the other side of the equal sign. So I still have 4a on the left. And now let's take a look at the right. I have 6/5 and 2/5. They're both negative, so I'm going to add them. So I get 8/5. Negative and a negative gives me a negative when we're adding. Keep the sign. Same signs. Keep the sign. So now I still have to divide by 4. So I would be dividing by 4, which I'm going to write it horizontally so I can do keep, change, flip. Because we're dividing with fractions, this would be over 1, and then I would do keep, change, flip. So I'm going to change my division, and you guys can add an extra step here, to multiplication, and then 1/4. Dividing by a number is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So now we're just going to multiply. You can multiply across, or I know a lot of us like to cross simplify. So now I can multiply across. 2 times 1 is 2. 5 times 1 is 5. So I get a to equal 2/5. And now let's just check our sign. A negative times a positive should give you a -2/5. All right, this one is another one where you have to pay close attention to it. Notice I see 2 variables. I see 3c and 8c. So I see my c's twice. Those are considered like terms. So before we can do any solving of an equation, we always want to make sure it's in simplest form. So we can simplify this by combining those like terms. So I have a 3c and essentially a -8c. Different signs, I should be subtracting them. Think I have 8, take away 3. That would give me a 5c, and take the sign of the larger. So now my equation looks like this. And now I just need to solve it. Well, I don't see any addition or subtraction happening, so I'm just trying to get c by itself by dividing by -5. Now, a +25 divided by a -5 should give you a -5. And the last one over here to the right. Now again, I see a 4 and I see a 3 together on the left side. Those are like terms. So first, sometimes when you see equations, you have to simplify them before you can solve them, or at least I think that's the easiest way to do it. So let's combine those like terms. 4 plus 3 would give me 7. Now be careful, this negative is attached to this 2y, so I have negative 2y plus 7, if I combine these terms here, equals negative 9. Now here's my equation. Now we'll solve it. So get rid of your addition or subtraction first. So I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. Negative 9 and a negative 7 give me negative 16. I still have negative 2y on the left. So now divide by negative 2. And a negative 16 divided by negative 2 gives me a positive 8. So y equals 8 here. All right, that is all of the your turn. That was 8 equations, 2-step equations that we did together. Hopefully you feel a little bit better, a little more confident in order to do some practice on your